the ones that are gated up.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Para OR Normal Guyz. We're glad you're here. It is time for Wednesday night paranormalness. Paranormalness, is that a word? Welcome to the chat, Soul. We are live on Dare Media, Dare Talk. Okay, I need to get this right. Dare Talk Radio in Australia. Welcome to them. We're live on Forward Talk Radio, Mastiff Radio, Right Talk Radio, Rainbow Radio, and Yergs Radio. And I may have forgot one, so thank you to the Yergs Network and to Radio X in Australia for allowing us to tickle your ears. If you want to come over and join the chat, you are welcome to. Find us on the Para OR Normal Guyz, 3 words, Para OR Normal Guyz with a Z, or just search out the Sport Cat shows, and you can join the chat. We already have some people in the chat, and one of my co-hosts is here, Miss Cheyenne. How are you?
I am fabulous. How are you?
I'm well, I guess I'm okay.
It's good to see you back home.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure how long it's gonna last, but yeah, I'm here for a bit. So
for now.
Yeah, for now. We are privileged tonight because one of our guests that we have, Bjorn, he has been here. He's like an old hat. We've had him a few times and we've really enjoyed him. I told him
he's wonderful.
He is. I told him he reminds me so much of one of my friends in Tennessee. I mean, literally all mannerisms, but he's got a new paranormal book out. Let's welcome him in here. Hello there. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Great.
We are hanging in there.
We have missed you. How have you been?
Oh, good. Busy. Just real busy. a lot of cool book stuff going on, but I did want to say this is one of my favorite shows to do because we get to talk about all kinds of cool stuff.
I love it. I love hearing those words. So, and yes, Chris reminded me, everybody, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe.
Well, it is I have to say, it is about darn time that Chris gets back to his job of reminding everybody to follow, share, and subscribe. Because Chris, you have been slacking.
That is true. He has been slacking. Oh, my other co-host is in here. Harley, if she is ready, I'll just bring her out anyhow and see what happens.
Oh, there she is.
Welcome. Harley, you don't know this gentleman here, but his name is Bjorn, and he is an author, and he has written some
everyone.
Cool stuff. So,
hey, how you doing?
Harley is one of my new co-hosts. I rotate my women in frequently, Bjorn. So, yeah, missed you too.
I love you, Chris. Mwah.
So, tell us what's been going on in your life since we last talked. I know you and I have emailed back and forth because we missed shows a while back, but
right.
We tell us what's going on. We missed you. You're one of our favorites too, by the way. So.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that. No, I'm carrying on with the series. It's book 5 is out. That one, it's all still on the same overarching story of Mariel and her supernatural powers that she has and her destiny that's coming up. But these future books are more towards the supporting characters that help her achieve her goals. And book 5 was the last one released. It was released in May, I think. That one was a lot more political, historical, political. So there wasn't a lot of the supernatural involved, but for the purposes of this show, the books coming up are heavily dripping with the supernatural. And it's going to, I think they're my favorite ones I wrote, my favorite character to follow. She's a new character named Josephine. She's very, very dark character. She was raised in Civil War era New York City, under her father, and she was part of essentially a crime family. And if that wasn't bad enough, her dad was very, very, very harsh, inhuman type, cold person, and that kind of sculpted her personality. So she became a very dark, inhuman, cold person. But it goes a lot deeper than that. As the story progresses, you find out that she essentially created a dark being within herself, and that ends up driving her to do a lot of terrible things, to be honest. But by the end of her part in the story,
a rough childhood will do that to you.
Oh yeah. And if you read the books when they come out, it's pretty terrible, some of the stuff she does. But she wants to be a normal good person, but it's just not in the cards for her. I mean, circumstances. She ends up eventually tied up in the Mariel story. She is a descendant of Mariel, and she knows that intuitively, but she doesn't understand what her part is in things. In the final, the final unfolding of Mariel's destiny, and she finds out eventually that she's a huge integral part of it. And not only that, she's a huge integral part to do good by being herself. So basically, the evil doing good. So it's not really a role reversal. It's more of a pointing out good people can do bad, bad people can do good, and sometimes evil acts lead to an ultimate good. And that's kind of the basic outline of her particular story, which is interwoven into Mariel's story that's already been started with the first book. So it was fun to write. For those that do like dark supernatural type stories, I think they'll really enjoy this part of the story.
That's Harley. She loves the dark supernatural. So hello, KG, welcome. Where do you come up with your characters, or do you have them locked in your basement, or?
Well, I worked with a gentleman a long time ago that he asked me how many people I have in my head one time. So
I get it.
So I kind of pluck a little bit of my own multiple personalities, I guess, and craft characters around them. It's fun. But no, really, the whole thing started just with Mariel herself. It started with it was a mashing up of all my interests. I have tons of interests. I like all kinds of stuff, and history is at the top. I've always loved history, and because of my family background, Norse history was always a favorite. So researching Norse history and things like that, I ended up running across a story from the 60s or 70s where they uncovered a burial mound in England that was a Viking chieftain that was fighting in England in the being in the 60s and 70s, they just assumed it was a male, and they put the bones away, and that was the end of that. But later on, I think 12, 15 years ago, they re-examined the bones and come to find out this wasn't a male, it was a female. So it was a female Viking chief, which nowadays we're a little more inclined to, that's more of a normal for us in the modern age. But at that time, that was unheard of. Women didn't lead warriors into battle, not on that scale. But it wasn't just that she was a female Viking that led warriors in battle in England, but the grave goods that were found with her, she was highly respected. She was a very, very highly respected warrior. She had the ship funeral with the slaves were sacrificed and buried with her, the grave goods, the riches, the whole 9 yards. So when I read that, in my mind, I was thinking, that's got to be a hell of a story. What was the story behind this lady? So I sat down and just started putting together my own story about this, not this one, but a female Viking warrior. And as I started writing it, it's more of less of the technical historical writing I always did became part of the story. It started becoming more of the fiction, adventure, fantasy side of things. And I started crafting Mariel out of this character. And then I started throwing in, okay, I want her really unique. So I made her not strictly Norse. She's half Norse and half Moor. So her father's from Northern Africa and her mother's from Norway. And so she has this very unique appearance. You know, she's dark tanned skin with black wild hair, and got green eyes. So she's just really strange. She's not your blonde hair, blue eyed Viking person,
Yep.
So then I said, well, let's throw in some personality quirks. So I started making her do weird stuff. Like she liked round food. She prefers round food. She doesn't like odd numbers, things like that. Just little things to make her quirky. And the coup de grace at the end was, I said, all right, let's throw in some supernatural, because that's my second favorite thing to read about is supernatural stuff. So I gave her this power. She has this it's a dark power and a light power at the same time, and neither at the same time is how it's described in the story. And no one knows how it got there. She just has it, and she has to learn to control it. So her first book, she's learning to control this power, because it can be extremely destructive, overtake her. She can wipe out people by the dozens, or she can do good with it. So she's got to learn to control it. She doesn't know how. And over the span of her learning to control it, she also has visions and omens and things like that lead her to understand she has a power for a reason. It just didn't fall out of the sky on her for no reason. She has to accomplish something with this. So she ends up in battling the dark. There's universally there's a light side and a dark side, and she's on the light side, but she weaves between the two. Her power is partly dark, so she uses the dark to defeat the dark. It gets a little complicated. I'm trying to simplify it without giving too much away for those who haven't read it yet. But it's a very layered, very interesting story, and it blurs a lot of lines. So I tried to make it resemble real life. Real life's not black and white. I mean, we can all pretend it is, but it isn't. So I tried to write the story the same way. There is no wholly good person or a wholly bad person in the whole story, but they end up choosing a side, and somebody has to win. So it was great fun to write, and I'm still writing it. So
good. I wasn't laughing.
Salty Dog. No, he was laughing at what Salty Dog was asking. It's always interesting when he comes in. He's got.
It would be more like Aquaman. Did they ever beat the shit out of a stingray? I don't know where he got that one from, but.
And what are you insinuating?
First we've got to.
You have to narrow it down.
We've got to see how.
Or.
Well, we've got to see how much he's been drinking first.
Well, last week he was naked eating Oreos.
Because he didn't want
so was I. So.
I guess that stops from getting the cheese powder on your clothes, so that's fine.
That's the same thing he said.
He said it prevents crumbs.
Yeah.
And then he had to drop out of the chat because his wife caught him. So.
Well, Warren's rubbed peanut butter on a jellyfish.
Oh, my show is already out of control here. What have we done?
It's because Salty Dog came in. That's what it is.
Wow, we have a love-hate relationship with Salty, so.
That's what I was saying. Was he talking about
bare knuckle fight or MMA gloves? Because the answer would vary. Well, that's true.
And it all depends on if he's talking about a stingray or something else.
Well, I was thinking.
I have a feeling he is referring to the ocean fish.
Yeah. I don't know, and that's more of an Aquaman thing. It's funny. I saw art today that had a picture of Odin and a picture of it's not Aquaman, but the Zeus. Is that right? Zeus, the god of the Greeks, and Allah and Yahweh. And they were all standing like all four staring at each other. And they're like, okay, so when's World War III going to start and go? And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. The comments were crazy. So
don't think I want to know.
What is
good stuff?
Oh my God.
Really don't think I want to know.
Warren's usually better, but
hopefully a bowl.
So yeah, most of the Norse characters are typically big, muscular. Well, I mean, what we envision them, obviously, big, muscular, beefy guys, and obviously Thor with the hammer. But that's what you envision. So having a female warrior, would that be correct? I don't know. Would that be correct? Female warrior, whatever it is. I got to get the pronoun right. Would be very unique because for that time period, that you're right, that was not something heard of. They're usually the hunter gatherers. What? No, is that right? Hunter gatherers? Yeah, they were the hunter gatherers while everybody else was out warring. So,
yeah, they took care of the homesteads while the men were gone. This is what we always thought.
Out
anyway.
warring.
Yeah, but come to find out, it was more likely they were out warring with them. So,
well, yeah. So, what have you? I'm going to detour you for a minute. You talk a lot about the history of the Norse. Have you written any straight Norse history books, or is it all been okay?
No, I haven't. I do a lot of reading about it. I haven't written any of it. A lot of just bits and pieces of creative writing around it that I've done over time, but I've always tinkered with creative writing. I just never did a lot of it with any intentions to publish or any seriousness about it. It was just something to do to satisfy myself. And this is my this series here, the Outside the Thalsparr series, is the first real attempt I made at creative writing as a serious effort. So and it took off, it expanded and blew up into 1,000 characters. So it went from a short story to 8 books. That's going to be, and then there's going to be a spinoff series about Josephine too. So, but it'll be strictly historical crime drama. It'll be about her being a badass in New York when she was young. So it's just blowing. It's out of control.
It really does sound like books that I'd actually read.
No, it's very fun. There's a little bit
into like the paranormal and all that stuff.
Now, the good thing about the series is it touches on a lot of genres. I mean, it's supernatural, historical fantasy, I guess, would be the major overarching thing you would call it, because it has a lot of those elements in it. But it touches on a little bit everything: crime drama, psychological thriller. The 8th book, the last book in the series, which is a ways off, that'll be next year before that comes out. But that one's a very, very much a mind bender. It's the whole time you don't know if the character's crazy, you're crazy, or everybody's crazy. It's a very interesting read. It will be.
Where can you find your books at?
Amazon is the best place. My website's thalsparr.com, thalsparr.com, and you can find where the books are and a lot of little extra things about the series that aren't necessarily in the books. And I plan to expand that quite a bit because I want it to be kind of it ends up being a universe. The Thalsparr is its own universe after all the expansions that have happened with it. And I do plan to share a lot more of that on the website. And potentially in the future, I want to do a anthology book that hits short stories to fill some of the gaps or questions that readers might have from the story itself that was never fully explained. So it's for those.
Did you catch that?
Which part?
The website.
Oh yeah, I thought I had it.
Okay, go ahead and send it to me, please.
Okay, I thought I had it in the show notes. But yeah, I'll definitely get it to you. Well, they may be in the show notes and just not posted yet, because when you go to set up the show, you're only allowed to put in like 1,500 characters or something. So I try and edit out the stuff and then go back and put it back in after the show. So, and of course, Spotify, Apple, all those places will have it tomorrow with the information in it. Is any of the superpowers immortality?
In a way, I'll say the character Ingrid, she's in book 4, Rune of Revenge. She's the protagonist in that one. She's a Viking warrior, also a female Viking warrior, but she's very much different than Mariel. She's huge. She's 6'6", built like a wrestler, and she's described as very masculine looking. She's very intimidating, but she's got a kind heart. But she's a hell of a warrior. She kills in battle 3 and 4 at a time. So she's badass, but she's got a kind heart at the same time.
I'm not even there at my 5 feet tall. Well, no, I'm 4'11" now.
But she I won't say immortal. She has an interesting death. It's not normal. I'll just leave it at that for those who haven't read it. But she it's implied heavily that she's not fully human. So it's interesting little twist on her story at the end. And then in the anthology that I'm working on that I just mentioned, there's a little more that explains that. And I'll just say it now. I don't think it'll destroy the story, but she's actually descended from Nephilim. So way back, her ancestors were fallen angels. So that explains why her whole family has this. They have this foresight. They have this power of foresight. Hers is the weakest. Her ancestors were a lot stronger. Hers is weaker. It's more gut instincts. She doesn't like see visions of what's going to happen. She just has gut instincts about things. And over time, her history got lost on that. So she just knew she has a weird power, but she didn't know why. But it turns out that through this whole expansive universe, especially on the other side of the veil, it explains that a lot of people have powers they do because they're descended from the fallen. So that's kind of where...
That sounds like me. I have gut instincts of things that's going to happen, and they usually happen when I have that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it does sound like Brock Lesnar's daughter,
yeah,
Chris.
I was going to highlight that.
That could be good or bad. I don't have that, and I'm not sure I would want it. Do you
Brock
find
Lesnar's
it more...
daughter?
She's
a big girl.
Yes.
The Kensington Runestone.
Yeah. Question for a change there. I'm not aware of that story. What is it? Is it
the Kensington Runestone?
Mm-hmm.
It's
I have a feeling it's not going to be what we think it is.
No, it's always been debated how far did the Vikings explore during their time. We know they were in Greenland. They were in Greenland. I'm going to kind of throw in my own opinion on this because it aggravates me with mainstream archaeologists, scientists, historians. Okay, I understand that we need to find evidence of something to say for fact that it happened. However, there is a bit of supposition that only makes sense. We know that the Vikings made it to Greenland, which is on the Western Hemisphere, and we know that they had settlements in North America. They were in Nova Scotia, and it was suspected they were in Point Rosie, which is on the south end of Nova Scotia, or I'm sorry, Newfoundland, not Nova Scotia. There is some evidence they were in Nova Scotia, and there's sagas that the Vikings wrote. Well, it was oral tradition, and then it was eventually written down that says they were in Vinland, which no one knows where Vinland is, but there's a lot of evidence that Vinland was North America proper, so it could have been as far down as New England, for all we know. But of course, since there's no hard evidence that places them there that is overwhelmingly convincing, we say they didn't make it. Well, my opinion is, of course they made it. They were in Greenland for 500 years, and they were seafarers. They were the greatest explorers of their era. Why would we expect they didn't go 20 more miles and find another entire continent? Of course they did. No, but to get back to the Kensington thing, in the 1891, 2, somewhere in that range, a Swedish farmer named Olaf, I'm going to screw his name up, Olaf Olmsted, I think is his name. He upturned a tree in his field that he wanted to plow. And in the root ball of the tree was a stone. It was a flat stone. And when he looked at it closer, it had runes carved on it. Now, this tree was at least, they were saying 40, 50 years old. But when they examined it, the stone is obviously far older. And they believed that the chiselings, the runes that were chiseled in it were far older. Of course, it would imply at that point that the Vikings, because this is Viking writing, these are ancient, this is the Elder Futhark runic system. This is what the Vikings wrote in when they did write. They didn't write off, they didn't do a lot of runes, but when they did, this is the system they used. And of course, there was, at the very same time, there was this huge Scandinavian heritage revival going on where everybody was there was a lot of Scandinavians in Minnesota and Wisconsin and such up there. So the naysayers started attributing it to, 1898. That's it. Olaf Olman. That's it. I knew I'd butcher his name, but they assumed that he was just making this stuff up to boost his own heritage. That saying that the Vikings made it all the way to Minnesota. So he just ended up using the thing as a doorstop because he felt like no one believed him. So he ended up being a doorstop, and someone ended up getting it because it's in a museum now in Minnesota. But I've seen several shows and several documentaries and things where people have examined the stone since then in recent times. I mean, in our times, and they more or less, most of them say there's no way this is fake. This is that old. This is from the 13 something, maybe Salty Dog knows. There's a year inscribed on the stone. It says 13 something. So that's long before Columbus is credited with discovering America. And this would be the same time period that the Greenland settlements were still there. Greenland settlements lasted from 1,000 to around 1,500 before they died out. And no one knows why they died out. They just disappeared. No one even knows why the Vikings left. I mean, they were there 500 years, and all of a sudden they're gone. So one suggestion is they just moved on. They moved into North America because they have found Native Americans with non-Native American traits as far back as the colonial times. I mean, what they called the Welsh Indians because they spoke a version of Welsh. How does that happen if Welsh people never came here? You know, so there's a lot of instances where Europeans were here long before Columbus ever came here. So, obviously to me, the Vikings is clearly one of them. I mean, Leif Erikson discovered North America in 1004. So that's obviously long before Columbus came. So.
Yes. I actually learned about Leif Erikson in school. They taught that instead of Columbus. We're not allowed to say Columbus anymore because it's bad pronoun or something.
Right.
See, the first time that I think my generation heard of Leif Erikson was from SpongeBob.
Yeah, I saw that one. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, it's scary. Well, so you were very knowledgeable on this subject, and I'm sure with you putting it all into your book, just interweaving it, that's great.
Yeah, different pieces. Yeah, for sure.
Any plans on extending maybe the family and continuing down into maybe modern times, or?
It has, not to modern times though, and I'll explain that in a minute. But it follows Mariel now. A little bit of a spoiler. I mean, I think the books have been out long enough. I could be a little more open. I try not to give too much away, but Mariel starts in she's born in 820, but her final death was in 1944. So that's 1,200 years. When she ends up in World War II era, she's fighting alongside of her own descendants. So her 32nd, 33rd great grandchildren are fighting with her. So in a way, yes, I do progress the family line on in modern times, but I haven't progressed past the World War II era yet. And the reason is the reason I won't do modern times, I do not want to write for cell phones and computers. I just don't want to do it.
That's fair.
And to clarify, Salty, I am not baked right now. I have had a migraine the last 2 days, so I am dealing with a migraine.
But is it from being baked?
No, I have I have discs in my upper neck on my spine.
Yeah, we don't judge.
We don't judge, Harley. It's fine.
I have a funny story about that I'll have to tell off the air. But yeah, wasn't me for the record.
I mean, shoot, how do you think I did? How do you think I did so many Saturday shows?
That's very true. Very true. I did drink a lot back then. Well, I can agree with you on not having to put the laptop, but you could alter the universe to where something AI took over and destroyed all that because AI is all knowing.
Oh yeah. That's the other big thing now is AI. I co-host a show called Author Talk every once in a while with as a guest host, and there's been several authors lately that have been writing stories about AI. I mean, it's very timely. I mean, look what's going on around us, and it's kind of cool to me, interesting, however you want to put it, that the wide variety of opinions on AI. You know, you got the ones that are very much for it, and the ones that are very much against it, and it's not a lot of in between. It's one of the two. I am kind of in between. There's some good things about it. There's some terrible things about it. Not saying the Skynet's going to take over. Not that part. I'm talking about just the stifling of creativity. I guess that's the
Give
part
it time.
The overlords. Well,
I'm
the
not a
latest
fan
in
of AI
conspiracy
because my
theories.
I'm
Good.
not a fan of AI because my son's going to college for graphics design, and AI is going to take over his field of work.
Yeah,
No, that's true. That's true. One of the conspiracy theories floating around right now is that AI is demonic, that we somehow summon demons and
that's AI is the demons.
and well, they're pretty smart. Salty has says perhaps a nonfiction book about the exploits of the Vikings would perhaps be obviously as entertaining as a novel. And he apparently gives medical advice too. So
Salty Dog, PhD.
Well, he's doing multiple topics at one time. Are we sure Salty Dog is not AI? He might be AI.
It's true.
Yeah, I play. I guess that's not the right word, but I like to toy with AI because sometimes I'll just get like something I can't figure out, and so I'll just go ask it. And so I've got a whole list of them up here on top of my bar. I got like Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, Google, Venice. I think there's another one. I run out of room, and I'll ask them each individual questions just to see, so what the answers are. So.
Well, for AI, as a analog, I feel you. Me too.
Yeah.
No, I think using AI as a tool to help creativity, I'm all for that. It helps maybe get the creative juices flowing, maybe helps give you some ideas to create something. But what I'm worried about is it's going to replace creativity. It's just going to make us lazy and not want to think about anything anymore. And that's my concern about it. It's going to replace creativity instead of help it.
Well, and a big thing of like in how much of it you see in like the comic book community now.
Yeah.
Like there was a big thing last year with Todd McFarlane's contest that he would put out every year for his Spawnuary. Last year there was a big thing because it was like, okay, no AI. It's got to be something you've done completely yourself. And I forget what you win, but people won money for this.
Mm-hmm.
And the cover that ended up winning was done everything through AI. And people were so peeved about that. And I was like, see, you can't even.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're crossing a horizon now, culturally with a lot of things, but AI is definitely a big part of it, and it's going to be interesting to see how this all turns out.
And shoot, I saw a thing, I think it was last year as well. It was a video of an AI church. It was a literal. They were in the building, but the sermon was given by an AI Jesus. It was a fully AI church. And I was like, that gets a little scary for me.
Maybe
and if we're talking about that's what I said. If we're talking about AI being demonic, now they're trying to weasel their way in to look a little less inconspicuous.
I'm glad you said it because I was thinking it.
But I mean, all those AI video, like music videos that they're making now, they're quite comical because how they come up with them, and they're hilarious. But other than that, I'm not really for AI.
I think as a light, like I said,
yeah,
as a
it's
light
like
tool,
I'm for it in some
that.
ways. Yeah, as a very easy tool of like. I think we had another guest once that said that she was also an author, and she was saying like she was fully against it until it got into like meta AI that was helping her with her branding on Facebook and helping her ads and stuff. And that was the only time I was like, no, things like that, whenever it's helping you like word things better and stuff like that, then yeah, I can agree that it's helpful. but like using it to like people that are putting out books that are fully written in AI, like no.
Yeah, and actually we talked about this on all, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
No, I was to say we talked about that very thing on Author Talk Monday, in fact, when I was on there, and that was something I brought up. Was I know it's a little controversial for people to talk about it, but my concern as an author is I have my entire books, all my books have been written out of my head. I have not used AI to write anything. Have I used AI as a tool to generate thought? Yes, I have done that. Like created images of the characters, which aren't in the books. Now I'm not using them in the books. It's just for my own personal ability to kind of think about the character, have them on the screen while I'm writing, and it helps me keep them fresh in my head, that sort of thing. But what worries me about writing books with AI is if you're using a computer to spit out stories for you, 30 a day, what's to stop you from flooding, say Amazon? That's where I'm at. I mean, let's say Amazon. Stop flooding Amazon from 10,000 books a year that are really just junk because a computer spit out a bunch of words in order. But people are still going to buy a copy or two. You know, it's still going to happen. Somebody's going to be interested in buy a copy or two. So now you've got 10,000 books to sell a couple copies a month or a year. You have an income, but you've created nothing. You've created crap, you know, and that's that. And now I've got to compete with it. So that's my concern.
But the thing with that is those people might buy like a couple copies and it's going to get around. This author is shit. Obviously, all of this is being kicked out through AI. And, you know, people that are legitimately want to read something good, you know, you're going to have people that are like, no, screw that author because clearly they're doing everything through AI. We don't want to read that shit.
Well, even as an author myself, I do get reviews on the books. You know, I wish I got more, but I do get reviews on the books. And some of them are obviously a person read the story and they wrote the review. It's obvious because everything in it makes sense to what they would have read. Other ones, however, you could tell they just hit a bot and it's just spit out. It basically took my synopsis of the story that's on Amazon to explain what the book is about, move the words around and called it a review. I mean, it's obvious. And that's, I mean, it's nice to have a review up there, but to me, it doesn't mean anything. A computer just randomly made up.
Yeah. If it's not worth it, if it's,
and if I can see it, the readers can see it. They're going to say this is crap, you know, and then it could potentially look badly, make my book look bad if those reviews are up there. So it hurts everybody in this case, you know?
It does. Yeah.
Or, you know, I could see a way of using it also if like, because like I've said it a million times, I have so many notebooks out there with books that I have attempted to start, but my brain goes so rapid fire through things. Now, if it's someone like me that say they have got pieces of one story that they kind of want, like, how can I fit this part that I have in with this part and this part and this part that I have? Now, if AI can merge that together and they can then expand on it,
well, yeah,
I could see that being helpful.
Yeah,
but
I call
it.
I would call that
like,
part of the. That's part of the helping you, you know, with your creative process, not replacing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, but other than that, no. Throw it all away. It can all get.
That's right. It's all demonic. In time, AI will render the populace as complete dullards without remembering or alerting. Anything it is a very dangerous thing. Yeah. You know, Salty's right about that. Yeah, like you, I use it for simple things. But, you know, if you think about AI, we've been using spell check and grammar. Oh, I've been using grammar check forever. So was that AI or was that? I mean,
I'm not really sure if that's AI or not. To be
Chris
honest.
saying our population didn't need AI to be become complete dullards.
That's
No, some people did it all on their own. So
yeah. What scares me is
Yeah.
We have politicians now using it like comic books. I mean, literally just throwing things out there to see what'll stick. And it's like, stop. We want the truth. We don't want this
Because you don't have to think. You have to think of this much, and it gives you this much. So
I use it to come up with hashtags for my show. That's about it.
it's good for that stuff. Yes, it is absolutely great for that.
and
But the bad part is
Glenn likes to make goofy pictures.
Well,
Yes.
the bad part is with the AI pictures of people, sometimes they're hard to tell if it's AI or it's actual person.
Yes. Well, yesterday's news show, I have a picture of a newsboy from the 40s handing Donald Trump a newspaper through a White House window. So,
oh, that's got to be legit.
it's got to be, of course. The Secret Service is
Clearly.
never stop that.
Yeah, go ahead, kid. It's all right. Go ahead.
How's your bike on up there? Hand him one. He'll give you a quarter. Who even reads newspapers anymore?
That's his drive-through McDonald's window where somebody comes up every day and hands it to him. So
French fries.
I did see one
Daily
that
French
said,
fries.
yeah, I did see one that was a picture
Yep.
of him serving fries outside of McDonald's drive-through, and it said "Employee of the Year, save the world by nuking Iran." And I'm like, that is golden. I mean, it's true in some ways, but it's like they were so carried away with it. I'm like,
well, was that from his day of working at McDonald's?
well, he didn't create that. Well, I don't guess he created that one, but yeah, somebody did, and it was from his day at McDonald's. He was the Employee of the Year for.
Oh my gosh, I was working at McDonald's at the time that he did that. Do you know how many people came through drive-through and asked, "Is Donald Trump here working today?"
Where's Donald Trump?
How many times
They
did you
were
tell
like-
them yes?
They were like, "I was really
making the
hoping
fries.
he'd give me my food."
Yeah, I'm
and
sorry.
like,
He's making the McChickens right now. Sorry, he's busy. The
The
president is
Like-
very busy.
I was like, really? Do you really think they'd let you come through the drive-through and not pre-picked to go through the drive-through?
Well, Harley, you said you worked at McDonald's, right? That's what you just said. What's the deal
I
with the
used
shake?
to.
What's the deal with the shake machine? Why
It
is it
worked.
never?
It always works. They just don't want to. They don't want to deal with it.
I friggin' knew it.
So I heard a story about this that so at the majority of the McDonald's and I don't 100% know if this is true, but the story I heard was that at all of the McDonald's locations, the company that does their ice cream machines, they have one company that is allowed to service them. And
That is true. Though.
I guess
Well, no, because
at the manual for these machines is like a freaking textbook, and at one of the locations a guy actually read through it and figured out how to fix it themselves. So the corporate people saw that on camera and were like, no, because then they're going to end up having to send him to other places to fix things. And the whole issue was that it's this one company that not a lot of people work for, that is the only people that can fix the ice cream machines. And my sister worked there back in the early 2000s. And she said that the majority of the time of why it's never working is because it is a bitch to clean. So they don't like to do it.
that's the same with Burger King. The machines are a bitch to clean, but we had 3 different companies come work on ours when I worked the one here in Ohio. So,
Well, but you had to get the cat out of the system somehow. So, Chris says they wanted to view the big, beautiful bulge. I somehow missed that conspiracy, and I don't know how. It must have been when I was out. apparently Donald Trump was walking to like the helicopter plane or something, and there was a bulge in his pants leg, and it took off on the internet as to what it really was. So,
I mean, do we need an I mean, do we really need an explanation, or are we just?
I'm good not knowing.
Where on the pants leg though?
it was down by his
Good
ankle.
not knowing.
Where we would assume that it would be?
No, it was down on his pants leg, and they think that it might have been
But
a catheter. No,
but
down
where
lower,
on the pants leg?
By his ankle.
Yeah,
Okay.
the calf.
Okay. Yeah. Then yeah, it was probably the catheter.
Or it could have been one of
This
those
is pee
things
bag.
for house arrest that they put on you, like the ankle monitors.
Oh yeah, yeah. His house arrest bracelet. Yeah.
I mean, the Secret
It could have
Service.
It
been
starts
that.
buzzing if he goes off of White House property.
They have lost presidents
Without
before.
permission.
And ironically enough, every
Yep.
time they Clinton,
It just
McDonald's
zaps him
on
if he goes to.
the true story.
It's like
Clinton was
his
easy to
little
figure out
shot
after a
collar.
Yeah, he's going down there for his hamburger.
That was the only McDonald's that the ice cream machine worked.
You are 100% correct. It does, and all the employees have to be vetted that work there, because it's the only 24 hours McDonald's that's in apparently the world, and they have to be vetted to work there because so many people from government offices come to that place. So it is actually a big deal to work at that one particular one.
Now you talked about losing presidents.
The pay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The pay better be good there then.
Did he like
so.
have a truck go behind him when he was traveling so he could get his Whoppers, his Big Macs every day, like a food truck kind of?
I haven't heard that one.
Well, the way they do it, I lived in Washington, so I know this stuff. The way they do it is they send somebody nondescript like me or Harley or somebody to go buy the food that's not associated with it, and then they bring it, and then of course they'll test it, and then it's delivered to him. But nobody ever knows that's his order, or like that's the stuff for the salads at the grocery store, whatever. Nobody knows. They'll shop at like strange places in Pennsylvania or Virginia or somewhere and move it around. So yeah, they have a really weird system. Don't ask me how I know all this stuff.
So they have their own Uber, basically, like a Secret Service Uber.
Exactly.
Food Uber, whatever the food Uber service is.
Right.
Hey, like now I would happily go be like White House Uber for their groceries.
If they paid good.
Sign me up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be looking more at like insurance and retirement would be pretty great. So, I mean, I'll go be the. Do I get a cute Secret Service guy that comes with me?
You joke, but there is people that are just shoppers for the White House. You know, you joke, but it's true.
Yeah, I'm not joking. I would legit go do that.
The celebrities have them, yeah.
Yeah, there's an author I've been trying to get on, and she writes mysteries. I'm sorry, I'm taking your time on this, Bjorn, but she writes mysteries, and she's from the White House chef. She gets involved with things unexpectedly, and she gives a lot of information away in that only a lot of Washington insiders knew. And it's really a cool book. She's got like 4 of them out now. And so,
she better be careful. She might be found in the part buried in leaves.
Yeah, it's true.
Just saying.
We'll see if they find her out back to McDonald's.
So, but yeah,
cleaning out the shake machine.
It's true. There's only one guy in Iowa.
There is a finger in here.
It's hard to get your McCat out of the griddle, I guess. So Harley's in Ohio, so that's where they were eating the cats and dogs. So McPuppy.
Not near me.
A McPuppy.
It was kitty nuggets is all it was.
Yeah, it tastes like chicken. Come on.
As I roll my eyes, oh my.
You can't tell me on day like 12 of the apocalypse there will not be people eating tabbies. You can't tell me that's not going to happen.
Oh yeah, you get hungry enough that everything's
it'll turn into it'll turn into, if you've seen Sweeney Todd, where they get so desperate for how expensive meat is that they start cooking the cats.
Yep.
Or she's singing about how all the neighbors' cats have went missing.
and then the people started witnessing.
Yeah. Bjorn, we're giving you hundreds of ideas for your book here. So.
I know.
Just name one of your characters, Glenn. That's all.
Shepherd's pie. Shepherd's pie peppered with the actual shepherd.
Yeah.
Lean meat.
Started with German shepherds and went on to real shepherds. So.
Yeah. Yep. Dog man, look out. So. Well, we're going to ask Bjorn, do you have any paranormal experiences of your own?
Actually, I think we talked about this the first time I was on, but I'd like to talk about it again because that's really the only one I have.
No, we love it.
No, I actually did. I took a short period of time, maybe a couple years, and did paranormal investigations because I've always been very interested in that stuff. So I got involved, started getting some of the basic equipment, the EMF detectors, all that stuff. Kind of taught myself how to use them. And I went with another group to a plantation here in South Carolina that has been abandoned for a long time. My equipment didn't pick anything up. Theirs did. I don't know these people I didn't know these people that well. I was hooked up with them through a mutual friend, and we shared clips, and I shared what I got, but it was mainly dust. It was dust. People always want to say, look at the orb, but to me, I think that's usually dust, and we just want to make it something else.
Oh, dust bunny.
But they sent back some audio clips that the only way I can explain it is it's either 100% fake or 100% real. There was no in between on this, because it had me on one of their sound recorders. My video camera went dead, and you know how they say the supernatural could drain batteries. Well, the battery was charged. I went in and I reported to the team leader that the battery was dead. I said it shouldn't be dead, but it's dead. She called it back to the base outside the plantation home to announce that this happened to my camera. And they said, well, who is it? As she's saying my name, another voice is saying my name. It wasn't feedback. It wasn't an echo. It was a whole different voice because it started before she talked, and it was very obviously a different voice. And you had to turn the sound all the way up, turn the like the feedback all the way down, but you could hear it was clear as day. And I'm very skeptical. I mean, I believe in it, but I'm very skeptical about the evidence. I have to really be convinced. And that was pretty freaky. And I said, I let my wife hear it. She kind of was somewhat interested, not really, but and I had some friends listen to it, and they were not sure what to make of it. But I said, in my opinion, this was either 100% fake and these people put it in there, or it's 100% real. That's the only two explanations. And the gentleman that hooked me up with these people, I trust him. He's a very upfront, honorable guy. So if he trusts them, then that leans towards it was true. It was real. But that was pretty impressive. And they got some other clips that didn't involve me that were pretty substantial as well. One of them was during the investigation. Part of it was there was some other stuff that I'm not too much into. They had like psychics that were following us around and talking about what they're feeling. And I'm kind of on the fence about that sort of thing. But one thing we did do is sit down and, just chatted with the spirits if they're there, ask questions. And one of the requests was, knock 3 times. That's a pretty common one. Knock 3 times and see if you get a response. We didn't. But the next day, my buddy, whom I trust, said he was cleaning up in the yard because his group was in charge of upkeeping this plantation home. He said the door knocker inside the bottom floor, which is behind a closed door and has security to stop people from going in there, knocked by itself 3 times the next morning when he was out. So you can say maybe coincidence, but how the hell did the door knocker knock itself when nobody's there? So after that request, it was cool. It was a very cool experience.
I would be de-assing the area. Well, what do you think about this Annabelle doll? That's all the headlines now.
I've always seen the headlines. What is it? What's it about?
Oh, there's so much going on now with that.
They're taking her. They're pissing her off is what they're doing. They're taking her around everywhere.
Well, not just that. Like, we're going to talk about this on the asylum on Sunday at 9:00. But there's been a plantation that was built 100 years. It's been standing for more than 100 years. That burnt to the ground in one of the states that she was taken to, and another one. Prisoners escaped. Like the 11 prisoners escaped from jail through a hole the size of Annabelle. Out of that hole. Let's see. There was a motorcycle accident where
I'm gonna make an assumption she's not very big then, right?
No, she's the size. She's the Raggedy Ann doll.
She's a Raggedy Ann doll.
Okay,
There
like a decently sized Raggedy Ann doll.
There was a motorcycle accident of this guy and his girlfriend. The guy was went to the museum and was making fun of her. And then they ended up getting in a wreck and dying after this, like right as they're leaving. And then her handler, who handled her all the time.
Well, that's his own damn fault.
Yeah. And he would take her out of this case that Lorraine told him not to do. He did this show where he took her out of the case. And then he told his wife after the show he really wasn't feeling good. And then later that night, they found him dead.
And this is all around that doll.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Middle of the story, don't F with Raggedy Ann.
Apparently so.
No, don't mess with Annabelle. And I've watched some mediums who's gone in and talked to her, and they've had their noise canceling on to where they couldn't hear anything going on in the room. And they've actually talked to her, and she's told them she killed the guy on the bike. She told the girl, I started this fire. And the medium did not know about the motorcycle accident until after talking to Annabelle and talking to the person in charge of the house that happened.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, they had her here in West Virginia for a bit, and I was like, nope. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Yeah.
That's
when that flood hit Texas, I had to look up and see if Annabelle was on tour in Texas at the time of the flood.
You bring up an interesting point, though, kind of reverting back to the paranormal investigation. That's one thing I always thought was ridiculously dangerous, was when people antagonize them on purpose. You see them on TV sometimes where they intentionally try to piss off a spirit. That, not me.
No,
this guy's not doing that.
Not a good idea.
No.
See, that's my kind of thing with messing with Ed and Lorraine's museum that they have. That's why I don't trust all of the shit that Zach Baggins has in his, because he is stupid as about, and he's so I love the show because of how goofy he is. Or he's trying to be serious, but it's goofy to me. But that dumbass is going to get himself killed or maimed extremely
is that the kind of young guy, muscular, and he goes around yelling at spirits? That's who I'm thinking of, I think.
Zach Baggins, yeah, from Ghost Adventures. He tried to start his own kind of museum and everything too, and I'm like, all right, you go messing with all the haunted stuff and
Lorraine told the
be stupid. That's fine.
Lorraine told the handler of Annabelle before he even there's an interview clip of it before she gave him this, handed it over in the case. Do not ever take this doll out of the cage. This is the case. This is the most possessed item in the museum.
Well, and the case is lined The case is lined in pages of the Bible. They've written in it. Like, they did a lot to prep this case for her to go into it too. So to take her out of it, you like either you're wishing for death or you're one stupid SOB.
And like, there was an interview with his wife. His wife said that she brought it to his attention that every time he took that doll out of that case, something happened to him.
Mm-hmm. There's a point where there's so many coincidences, it's not a coincidence.
Exactly.
You gotta start taking the hint at some point.
Yeah.
You know, that maybe she's like, hey, don't really like this, buddy.
You don't have to
the
believe in
bad
it, just
part-
leave it alone though.
And the bad part of it is they got a new handler now
Yep.
for this doll. And she's about to be back on tour.
Well,
In
there'll be
October,
another
she
series
goes back on tour.
There'll be another series of articles out there.
Okay, this isn't.
What?
This isn't like Weird Al's 3-month tour of going around and singing. The Annabelle doesn't need to tour. Stick her someplace.
Put her in a basement.
Obviously, she's telling y'all, I don't like this. Quit fucking with her.
Put her in the basement of the Pentagon.
Like,
Lord, Bjorn, we have run out of time. Please,
then AI is gonna get to her. Then
Exactly,
she's not
Chris.
AI.
Exactly, Chris.
How do we know she's not AI?
Hey, if anybody was going to come back as a ghost, it's Ozzy Osbourne. I just want to get that out before we.
I was thinking the same
please,
thing.
please.
He could go on tour. I'd be down with that. But Bjorn, first off, you got to
His
come
ghost
back.
tour, please.
Exactly. You got to come back, and because we love you here, and tell everybody where they can get your stuff. And then I've got Don is already backstage, so I got to cut you out. But we are glad you're here. We always have a great time with you. I know we drifted, and I apologize. We get off your.
Oh, no problem. That's one great part about the show is we talk about all kinds of stuff, and it's all fun.
We're not stuffy. So, but yeah, please tell everybody where they can get your stuff, where they can find you, even if they wanted an autographed copy, maybe. So,
best place to go is my website, which is kind of the hub of everything. It's thalsparr.com, thalsparr.com. And the books are available on Amazon. There's 5 out, 3 more coming in this series, and then a spinoff series. So it's plenty of them coming in the future.
And leave an actual review.
yes,
Yeah, please don't use AI if you can help it.
leave a review, and when the movie deal comes in, I want to have a scene where we're interviewing you. So,
Oh, absolutely. Got to.
Harley has to go also.
I want to have. I am requesting a scene like Peter Jackson has in all of the Lord of the Rings. Can I just have a quick pop up and then, or like a cool death scene?
Well, I said if it ever
I'm just
made
requesting to be in it.
if it ever made it to film, I just want to be the drunk in the background. It doesn't matter the scene, doesn't matter the time. I just want to be the guy wandering around the background drunk. That's what I want to do.
All right. Well, you can be like the guy, and you can be like him in Fellowship, where he's wandering through just eating the carrot.
Carrot, yep, the carrot man. Absolutely.
all right, man, we got to get out of here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank
And,
you so much for having me back.
please,
I do enjoy the show. I hope I'm back soon.
Oh yeah, we'll get you back. And Harley, you got to go because
Of
you
course.
got kids' doctor's appointments, so I'll let you get out of here too. So,
Okay.
um,
I'll talk to you guys later.
all right.
Check me out Sunday at 9
Bye.
o'clock as we talk about the Annabelle doll before the big cat talk.
I probably won't be on that show. I don't like dolls.
Well, I figured that one. Bye, guys.
See y'all later. Bjorn, have a great night. We'll talk to you
You
soon.
too. Take it easy.
All right. Bye-bye. We have such a great time with this.
That's super funny. That's super funny because whenever I was going through my childhood stuff, I have a little tiny Raggedy Ann doll, and I just kept like looking over, and I'm like, okay, now I want to burn it. Now I want to
Somewhere
burn
in
it.
my basement, I have a very large Raggedy Ann doll that somebody gave me as a child. I've seen it in the basement, but I don't know exactly where it is. So yeah. Yeah, I looked for.
It's probably better to stay there. Yeah, thankfully mine is only like literally this big, so I can like
this one's probably
if I have to.
3 feet tall, maybe. It's a pretty big one. So, well, as you know this, we always have 2 guests, and we always want to talk about crazy things. Well, our second guest, he's a world traveler and an author, and he's patiently waiting backstage. Don Sawyer is our next guest. Let's bring him out and welcome him. Hello, Don. How are you?
How are you doing?
Doing great.
Hello, Don.
Sorry we ran over a bit there. We get carried away talking, and we probably will with you as well. So
I enjoyed it.
Talking and goofing.
Yeah, but we like to talk about your books and your experiences and all that, but we wander around and squirrel.
I wander a lot.
Well, tell us about you first, and then tell us about your book, and then we'll go from there, see what happens.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me on. You know how difficult it is to promote books these days. We had 4 million books published last year, and to get some attention, to get people just to recognize that, hey, there's something out there I might actually want to read isn't easy. So really appreciate shows like yours, giving those of us who we think we've got a good book, we haven't been figured out how the formula for getting it out in front of the buying public. So that's appreciate that. Yeah, I'm living in Ontario right now, in southern Ontario, Niagara country. But my career has been a long one, as you can probably see. And I've worked in West Africa. I've worked in Jamaica. I've been 35, 40 countries around the world. I taught in Aboriginal communities, what we would call American Indian communities in Canada. So I brushed up against a lot of what might be called paranormal. And I think for me, that term means looking at the world differently. The reality that we accept and take for granted is, in my experience, only one of many realities. And I've had some experiences that have certainly shaken my sort of Western preconceptions about what's real and what isn't.
With being involved in so many different, or having touched so many different cultures, then yeah, absolutely.
I was with a shaman in northern Ghana who went into a trance and started speaking, and he nobody could understand him except his translator, who was inscribing down what he said he gave me a very interesting fortune, and also told my friend who was with me at the time that he was being blocked. So things like that, and they don't. I don't know if I can explain it or not, but this is real to them.
Mm-hmm.
I had another experience, a Ghanaian fellow I worked with at Simon Fraser University, and he had a PhD in sociology, I think. And he went back for a funeral. I think it was his father's funeral. And part of a funeral ceremony is where the sons, and along with a few other people, carry these giant coffins. They're actually hewn out of whole trunks. Sometimes they're carved like cars and things like that. But they literally weigh like 2 tons. And the process is they go into the pallbearers go into with the leaders of the ritual. They go into a kind of trance, and then they lift this 2-ton thing and walk a mile up to the burial ground. It's not possible to do it that. And I wasn't up there to see it. But this guy said, I lost consciousness at this point. The next thing I knew, an hour later, I was at the burial grounds, and I had carried this up from the river where the body had been deposited. I have no doubt in my mind that to him that happened. So I'm not. it's not possible in our world, but I'm not so sure it's not possible in parallel worlds. So I just think it's really interesting. And of course, I know one of the questions you asked, so I don't want to rush it, is have you had a paranormal experience of your own? I can get into that now, or we can talk about it later, whatever you like.
No, by all means, please.
Okay. Well, as part of my misspent youth, I tended to drink too much and drive too fast. And when I was 18, with a friend of mine up in sort of northern Michigan, I missed a turn and turned my TR3, my Triumph, over. And fortunately, my friend was thrown clear and walked away, but I wasn't. I was caught by the steering wheel, and I was pounded repeatedly as the car rolled. And so, I still have scars on all over the face. But anyway, they got me to a hospital, half dead, and I was in a coma for three days. And so I would kind of lapse in and out of consciousness over this period of time, and the consciousness would last for sometimes a few minutes, sometimes a few seconds. But about, I don't know how many days it was into it, a day or two into it, I was lying on my back, and just as clearly as if there had been a doctor sitting next to me, a voice said to me very clearly, not a voice I recognized, said, if you want to die, it's a very simple process. All you have to do is to turn over on your stomach and you'll die. He said, think about it, because if you want to live, all you have to do is to remain lying on your back and you'll live. And that was that. That was the voice. It was definitely a male voice, disappeared. But the clarity, the preciseness, my recollection was absolute. And I can remember, obviously I wasn't in a very good space. I can remember lying on my back and considering for quite some time, did I want to die or did I want to live? Really, it comes down to this. And I have no doubt in my mind, although I could be wrong, that if I had decided I wanted to die and turned over, I would have. But I can remember making a decision. No, I don't want to. I lay on my stomach and I didn't die. But I've since read accounts of that called the third man experience, where there's this voice that comes to you in your sort of near-death experience. But I don't know. I can't explain it. Obviously, if I was religious, it would be God talking to me, but that didn't feel right. It doesn't feel to me. I'm not religious. And so I don't know how to explain it, but it's one of those unforgettable experiences that doesn't fit anywhere in that sort of natural order of things. And to this day, I remember it. And I think more than symbolic, it made me make a decision that obviously I'd been putting off some time. You want to die or do you want to live? I'm serious. I mean, I think I was at that point. And, I was acting out. In fact, that's what I was being told. I was acting out. And so that decision was rather momentous in my life, I guess, in the long. So those are things. But I mean, I've seen so many different things that just, it's not. I remember when we were in Ghana one time, one of the shaman had supposedly they have little dwarves that live in these huge baobab trees, and the only way he keeps them up there is to keep a ribbon around them. It was a blue ribbon. Otherwise, they come down and just create all kinds of havoc. So some of the kids were in this little village up in the north said, we want to go see the shaman and see the tree. And we said, sure. So we went traipsing through people's backyards, and we finally got to the shaman's house, and he was out. I don't know if it was a house call or what, but he was not there. And so, but they did take us over to the tree, and with the ribbon around it. And I mean, again, do little gnomes live up in that tree? I have no idea, but I have no doubt that they believe they do. So it's interesting, and we know about what we used to think were zombies, and now aware that it's actually it's a chemical process that puts people into essentially a death condition from which they awaken. So it's just, there's so many things we don't know. I think that's what I find fascinating, and I find fascinating about this program. And it really is at the heart of my books. Is that, like, for example, I don't know really. The first book is called The Burning Gym, and the Burning Gym, in it, a gym maker who it turns out is working for an evil cabal, but we don't know that initially, has a machine that looks very much like an old wood camera. But instead of taking pictures, it extracts a portion of the soul from the individual and crystallizes that soul, not the whole soul, but just a portion of it, into a magnificent gem, which can then be set as you will. And initially, we know that gem accelerates the character, the tendencies of the person who owns the gem. But later, we find out that it also is a transmitter and a receiver of messages from, it turns out, in Budapest. And so we begin to understand that this is part of a much larger scheme to provide control over thought, over individual attitudes, beliefs. And so the book evolves as they begin to track this down to the source of this evil. But that idea of crystallizing the soul fascinates me. And you probably
it's very interesting.
You probably know about the story about when in the late 19th century, Curtis and others went through the Western United States trying to document Native Indian cultures through photography before it sadly disappeared. Well, in many cases, the subjects refused to have their pictures taken. And one of the reasons they were not comfortable with it was because they felt that it stole their soul. And when you think about it, okay, there's a little click, and all of a sudden this glass plate comes out, and there you are on this glass plate. How the hell did that happen? And in a sense, they were right, because you're frozen in that moment on that picture. That picture will never change, but you change. You go on. You live. And so I found that fascinating.
Almost in a sense, it does take a portion of you.
It does take a portion of your soul and freezes it. Bang. And so I thought that was really fascinating. What would that be like if there really was such a machine? And how would it be used? As we learn more and more, technology can be used for good or ill. And in this particular case, we find out that it's not only being used for ill, but it's being used by a consortium it dates all the way back to Socrates and Plato, groups that promoted the idea. Plato, for example, said that we all were born with different metallic souls. We were born with golden souls, silver souls, and bronze souls. You can imagine which one Plato was in. So that there was this built-in natural inequity into human beings. And then, of course, the ones with the golden souls were the ones who were intended to rule. And so in a place like Athens, you had fewer than 10,000 people actually voting, and about the rest of them were basically subjects. So that's a part of our history, that idea of convincing people that there are those in the divine right of kings, or the divine right of wealth and power, that somehow this is innate, that this is not to be toyed with. It's God-given, if you will. And so I'm playing with the idea that this is not our inability to see through the deception, to find commonality amongst other human beings, to look at existential threats and come together. In other words, tribalism. But maybe it's a product of a very conscious very old, very sophisticated, very powerful system that uses any means, any magical means, where we got some pretty magic ones these days, to convince people of their own incapacity to change things, to accept things the way they are, to be passive, and so that is kind of the idea in a nutshell. The first book, they encounter the Mester, who's the first line, but in the second one, they actually go into the lair of the order of the Golden Souls, and that's hidden underneath a labyrinth of tunnels, which really does lie under Buddha Castle. And I don't know if you're familiar with Budapest, but Buddha Castle is on the Buddha side of Budapest and on the Danube River. And there are literally, and they're not even sure, there's well over 10 miles of tunnels that they know of underneath. And so where else would you locate a nexus of evil that promotes division and dissension and hatred? Where else would you locate it? So that's kind of where we're at on it. That was a long introduction.
No, I like it.
Wow.
I like it. No, I mean, well, just like Bjorn,
Yeah.
you do a lot of research.
I've already added it to my cart.
Oh, go on. Now, that's what I like to hear.
I was just like,
That's someone who puts her bucks for it.
okay, yep. Mm-hmm.
And I wrote the two books, interestingly enough, at least I find it interesting. I wrote them as a single book. I don't know if I had the thumbs up or not. But of course, that turned out to be 190,000 pages, 190,000 words, which is like some 600 pages. So understandably, I was having trouble finding a publisher, but I worked with an editor, a really great editor. She was terrific. And I've had, I don't know if you look, I've had like 14 books published over the years, all different kinds of genres, but never in a urban fantasy genre. She helped me break it into two, and it worked really, really well. I mean, you can't take a single book and just chop it in two and say, okay, this is book one, this is book two. I mean, there's but it worked out really well, I think. I think that both of them have a specific arc that interlaces nicely and complements each other. I think both are exciting. So it's not a ponderous book. I think there's lots of adventure. There's some, even though the gym maker is 110 years old, and the young woman who sort of digs him out of his hole is probably in her late 30s. I mean, there's definitely an age difference, but he was frozen at 110 when he signed on as a gym maker. So we can give him some latitude, but there's a bit of romance. I did a lot of really interesting research that I found fascinating. For example, he's located, the gym maker, at a giant abandoned subway station in New York City, and the only way you can get to it is an ancient, again, long abandoned subway terminal. And so when I was looking into trying to find, are there any abandoned stations, I came across something that I found absolutely fascinating. That our current New York subway is not the first one there. There was one started in the 1870s, and it was his name. Oh gosh, something pneumatic, was it Hall? Anyway, so he started off by building this great big terminal. I mean, you got to impress investors, right? So you start off with this big terminal, and then there was an economic collapse, and he lost everything. And essentially, this has been forgotten, but it's still under there. So in my book, this thing was massive, the size of Grand Central Station, but it was abandoned. And so over time, people find it, and they're not people. In fact, if you'll allow me, they come as refugees, as colonists. They come to find a place. They're different. They're odd. They're not the same as everyone else. And so they find their way there. as a way of escaping from the beach pneumatic transit. That was the original name. So if I could just read you this, so you're going to give me an idea of what I'm talking about here. So
yeah, please.
Okay, so Barbara is a young woman who suddenly introduced to all of this. She stumbled into this. By the way, to get there, she had to walk through the subway system because the station was abandoned. And so the only way she figured out she could get there was actually walking on the tracks to get there. And of course, she was terrified, but she made it. So when she finally connects with him, he takes her to the market. And she's trying to say, who are these people? There's like hundreds of people in this magnificently redone terminal. And so he says, have you ever seen a contortionist? Barbara shrugged. Sure, on TV, I guess. She paused, thinking, oh, wait, there was this one woman. She was on a documentary. I think she'd just been named the Guinness Book of Records or something as the greatest living contortionist. She was Russian. I don't know, Zlata, something like that. My God, she moved like a snake. Her head seemed separate from her body. She bent over backwards until she was looking out between her legs. Yes. And what did you think when you saw her? Well, I don't know, mainly that her body sure didn't move like mine. What she did seemed humanly impossible. D'Angelo nodded once more, this time toward the people in the shops and walking across the tiled floor. Precisely. And not everyone's mind works like yours either, or mine. These are people who can do things cerebrally, mentally, that seem humanly impossible. They are up there, he said, motioning upward, walking on the streets, talking with a being from another dimension that no one else can hear. Predicting the future in rundown tarot parlors. They're living in monasteries, hogans, learning ancient rites and forgotten arts. They have grown up in isolated corners where old knowledge is still passed down. They are the children in school who devise a chemical theory so advanced the teacher scorns it as rubbish. D'Angelo stopped and looked directly into Barbara's eyes. They are sitting in the back of classrooms, watching, knowing how those around her feel and think. He held her eyes for a long moment. Come, I'm anxious for you to meet Mrs. Harlow. Well, Barbara is also, as she develops, she is an empath with the capacity to feel and later on develop to transmit feelings to others. So he is already sensing that she too is special, but that hasn't fully arisen yet. But that idea that these are people who are special and they're in this place, they're accepted. They're not rejected. They're not ridiculed. They're understood. And they also come from over 60 different countries. They're from all over the world. And it's in some ways a place, a utopia where we can come together and be ourselves and contribute to the overall all good without facing the kind of criticism for being different. So that was fun to develop that world. And the people who came, the first people who came, built this magnificent, it's all tiled. And two of the early settlers were part of the Manhattan Project, who had been, of course, traumatized by the atomic bomb. Their work on that, and they create a nuclear sun that powers the entire village, the entire market, in the ceiling of this gigantic, and all these tradespeople are around. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed creating that world.
Where do you come up with your characters? Because those sound some pretty deep people there.
Yeah. Well,
I'm like, excuse me, I was making my purchase.
So don't let me interrupt.
You sold me. I was just like, I'm just gonna go ahead and get that while I'm.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing what you think of it. Like I say, I think this is something that's obvious. We travel. Everybody we meet, right, affects our writing. We can't help it. Unfortunately, I've been I've worked around the world. I've worked with remarkable people of remarkably different backgrounds, and I think that that's really affected the way I see the world and the way I see people. In Barbara's case, she's stuck in a loveless marriage by this philandering lawyer husband who thinks she doesn't know what's going on. But of course, she not only knows what's going on in terms of, him screwing his secretary, but also in terms of stealing money and putting it into secret account. That comes out later. So she's stuck in this loveless marriage and doesn't know how to get out. She's got everything but nothing: an empty house, an empty marriage, an empty community. And so she's desperate to get out. Now, I relate to that because I grew up in a suburb outside of Detroit. And I know that feeling of being, this isn't me. This isn't where I want to be. This isn't the life I want to live. But it's hard. It's hard to break out. So when this guy showed,
I'm feeling hardcore with Barbara right now.
Well, I think so many people do, and I guess the thing I object to is when people say, "Well, why doesn't she just leave?" And it's not that easy. We all know it's not that easy.
It's not that easy.
And so in her case, this spark of this guy showing up and creating this incredible gem from her soul that it's burning red. It's just alive with fire and light, and it lightens her, and she knows that this gem is her way out, and so she has to find this guy, and that's how she tracks him down through the subway system. But it's like something it shocked her out of this inertia, and even then she has doubts. She almost turns around. She goes,
yep.
And she almost turns around because it's easier just to stay in the situation you're in. And so it's like, yeah. That's
Jeez, Don, you just writing about my life?
I think I'm writing about a lot of life, to tell you the truth, and that's what your point, Glenn. I think characters, they come from us. Let's face it. I really do think every character we write comes from us. I mean, even if it's an alien,
mm-hmm.
there's something in that alien that comes from us, right?
That's you.
That's you. That's you from another planet.
Give me.
So, and I think I honestly do believe that. I mean, because that's all we have to draw on is our experiences and our, and
I know whenever I write, a good chunk of whatever character I'm writing, like the main character is a good chunk of myself or side characters. A lot of them are like based off aspects of my friends or different things like that, because that's what you have to go off of.
Exactly, right? What I'm not even sure you could avoid writing what you know if you wanted to, to some extent. But one of the things I did with this book that I hadn't done with other ones was that I wrote character sketches before I started the book. So I had a character in mind, and I actually wrote all kinds of background, where they were born, what they liked to eat, experiences that they had had, their aspirations, their favorite color. This is who this person is. And I created very little of that actually made it into the book per se, but it gave me a fully realized character that I could draw on as he or she proceeded through the book. And I think it succeeds particularly in that it gives the characters a distinct voice, and a distinct background. That one of the things I find with a lot of fantasy stories is that at some point you have trouble distinguishing one character from the other. Wait a minute, who's this now? Because they sound the same, they act the same, they do the same, and I want each one of these characters to emerge as a separate human being, as a separate individual with horrible, wonderful, magnificent, degrading, whatever. But I want them to emerge as a distinct and complete human being. So writing those character sketches I found really helpful. One of the characters in it is a guy who had been brought up in England in a family where he was beaten by his father, a very rough background, goes to jail, ends up working as an enforcer. And so I create his life. What was it like to grow up with his father, who'd come in, he's eaten something from dinner and his father beats him to a pulp. How does that feel? How does that make him feel? He goes into prison. What happens there? How does that make him feel? What does he want when he comes out? Is it revenge? Is it what? And so that character evolved and became a really interesting figure, I think, in the book. And he's much more nuanced than I had started off, because he is also a character who has seen enough to develop compassion, to develop understanding, and also to know that he's being used, and he's being used for purposes that he can no longer support. So that was interesting with those characters, and a lot of the conflict in here, like, does draw on some research into philosophy, like Nietzsche. Nietzsche was a 19th century philosopher who was very popular with Hitler, who talked about the Superman and believed that again, there were people who were meant to rule, and then there were the rest of us were basically slaves. And so this is again a contemporary philosophical theme that these guys are kind of promoting. And so again, you can draw on some of those ideas to strengthen your plot line and strengthen the conflict. Yeah.
Well, doing the in-depth bio like that does give them such depth.
Yeah.
I mean, you sound like you almost write a book about each character because you're telling their life, their autobiography.
Yeah, it's as I say, well, most of the stuff I've written it's the first time I've ever done it. I think it's because it's a genre I've never written in before, in urban fantasy. And I don't mean to imply that, it was a 25-page bio, but, it was 3 or 4 pages that sort of summarized who these people were. I found it, I just can't tell you how useful I found it. So when this guy's confronted with this choice, I know exactly how he's going to respond, because that's who he is, and that's how he acts, that's how he thinks. And so I think it really did make the characters more believable, and as I say, more distinguishable.
Well, does doing that give you inspiration as you go along, or do they guide you? In other words, the character as you're writing says, "Yo, Don, I'd never go down this street."
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's a good question. I think the writers, there's that, you're waiting for the muse to light on your shoulder and sort of show you the way. I think that both happens, but I think with the sort of the pre-writing, if you will, that there's a framework that you're working within that permits more spontaneous development, if you know what I mean. It's not like you're just winging it and saying, "Wow, I wonder what's going to happen today." It's like, if I can just 1 second. I mean, I'm working on the last book, and it's frankly not going well. I'm having trouble getting started, but this reason I'm showing you this, because this is the kind of like, these are just bits and scratches of dialogue that I've put down. This is another diagram just showing kind of where things might go. Here I'm trying to develop a timeline involving Tesla and some of his stuff. So at this point, this I guess would be as close to an outline right now as I have. But I've written like 3 chapters based on this. And so if we went down here, and I won't bore you with the details, but I've taken these basic ideas now and fleshed them out, and they've changed dramatically. They've changed dramatically since I laid them out, because as I wrote them, I said, no, this works better. You know, so I start with something fairly specific, but I also leave plenty of room for change and spontaneity as the characters begin to act up and tell me who they are in more detail.
You know, as you were showing me those, it reminded me of someone else in my life, and they trained me to do remote viewing. And with the remote viewing is exactly what you were doing right there. You were sitting down and you were writing, you know, this, and it's free flowing, but it's coming from somewhere.
Absolutely.
The matrix, the whatever you want to call it. And so that's, to me, that's what you were really doing right there, is you were using that power, third eye. I don't even know what to call it, but you were in a sense remote viewing because you were looking into the world with Bob, the sailor, or whomever. So you were in a sense transferring your soul and your positive, your frontal brain into that, and then going from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, because I think that's what you're doing. You know, we left hand, right hand brain, and you know, the right hand is the more creative than the left. This is probably more left hand, you know, left lobe, where I'm sort of structuring it like this. But when I get into it, I had originally, anyway, it doesn't matter, but one of the characters that they encountered in the second book suddenly show up out of nowhere. So suddenly they're confronted with the enemy. They hadn't expected that. And so originally I had a whole nother scene where they end up battling the bad guys in the subway. And I said, no. Just, you've got the guy there. You've got the conflict already set up. Just develop it. And that's where, you know, the right hand brain came in. And then I just let her rip. So I realized that the structure I had provided was actually too restrictive and unnecessary. And so, you know, the envisioning was there, but also the ability to step back and revision, I guess, has to be available as well. Yeah, I've enjoyed it. Like I say, I really looking forward to getting into it again. I'm having fun because I get to do a lot. Like I'm involving Sun Tzu in this one, the famous Chinese warfare philosopher, and so they're taking on the full on this order of the golden soul, and these guys don't fool around, and so it's going to be a fight to the finish. And I really like my characters in the second book, The Tunnels of Buddha, when they have the confrontation with the guy who's head of the company, which is sort of the front in front of all this. I don't think he's giving anything away. He takes Barbara to his headquarters, and then, but she has already defied him, so that the people and appealed to the decency of some of the men who are there. He's collected these 12 gym makers, but she's appealed to the decency of some of the men who are there, and they collect around her. And although she ends up going with Justin, these 5 characters, again, all very distinct, intentionally from different cultural backgrounds, they bring their wisdom and knowledge together to escape this labyrinth of tunnels, which no one's ever escaped from. Just think about it, like 50, 60 miles, and they do, true. I mean, these tunnels date back to Neanderthal times. And so these characters again emerge as people with tragic stories, but also with good hearts, bravery, compassion. And so they emerge as individual characters, and And so that's what's fun in this third book, is now I can use those characters to flesh out the final conflict, if you will.
Have you ever looked into remote viewing by chance?
I'm excited.
Because I mean, you literally, that's almost what you did right there. It's kind of cool.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I didn't get that, Glenn. Have I looked into?
I said, have you ever really looked into remote viewing? You know, the CIA, our spy bad boys, they spent lots of money trying to figure out how to do that. And they've got a system of it, actually.
Well, I've read about them doing that. I know that they put a lot of money into it. My understanding was nothing very concrete came out of it. But I mean, I'm certainly not denying. I mean, I've just been reading about stuff today, interesting enough, and in preparation for this, actually. You know, I can remember years ago reading about studies that go back to the early 1900s, where people can detect when they're being looked at.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem like a big deal, but the random would be like, you know, 1 out of 100. But over and over and over again, even when they're controlling for all kinds of variables, they get 50% response. So there's actually now, oh, gee, they've been denying, there's actually a name for it. And they've actually found brain cells that fire when someone is staring right at the person. I mean,
wow.
Like 20 years ago, that's paranormal, right?
Yeah, that's witchcraft.
Yeah, that's Sixth Sense stuff. Now we've got this is from Psychology Today.
The hocus pocus.
You know, so I mean, it's like we have. Well, I don't know if you followed some of this stuff with autistic folks, but so many interesting things that we're finding out of. Many autistic people can see 3 times as far as non-autistic people. Why? Just because their brains work differently. So who are we? You know, I mean, like you may have heard the story about the guy, the autistic man that flew 14 minutes over Tokyo in a helicopter, came back and created an absolute perfect detail, an entire model of Tokyo. Every building.
Oh, wow.
Just, I mean, so you know, they're extraordinary things that we can't explain. And so I really, you know, I keep my mind. I mean, I must say, I
would say it would be like they fire on like a different frequency with a lot of things.
Absolutely different frequency, not our frequency. That doesn't make it good, bad, or indifferent, but it's different. And so, you know, I think a lot of people.
Well, it's almost like they are like partially on ours, but on like a different one as well.
The savant side is just, you know, in their ability to focus and to disaggregate in incredible detail is we can't do it. We can't imitate it. So you're right. It's a different, you know. And to me, what I think I find kind of fascinating about all this is that, like, for example, this, believe it or not, as I'm reading this, they now have, not only have they identified the cells and the alleles that produce the cells, they have an evolutionary explanation for why we do that. And our eyes are specially built to pick up on all kinds of vibes.
Yeah, stuff we don't see. Yeah.
And so it's like, so a lot of these differences not only make us different, but they also make us stronger as a human species, because we all have something to contribute. We all have different skills, you know, abilities, and phenomenal. So I find that fascinating. So, you know, we're finding that, you know, we have different kinds of personality types, and that each one of those types has served a purpose over our evolution. And if everybody was the same, you know, just all kinds of fascinating things. So when I'm writing these books, I'm trying to also make a plea for, listen, let's get over our small tribal differences and find out and value what we have as human beings, and find ways of sharing our knowledge and our specialness, and our differentness, and you know, create a better world for it.
I agree. In talking, you know, I was a paramedic in my previous life, and I've run calls with crazy people. I mean, like people that are crazy. But I remember one of them, me and another person were kind of locked in a position we couldn't get out of. And I said to my partner, I said, how do we know that what he is seeing isn't really there? And my partner's like, okay, I got cold chills. And I'm like, but we don't. We judge and say, well, he's crazy.
Right. Well,
Well,
in fact,
because to them, a lot of the times they are actually seeing what.
Yes.
sure, we're judging them by our standards.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Sanity.
Just because we can't physically see it doesn't mean that they're not actually seeing it.
And for example, I just feel like I can find it quickly because it's like I put in here that it's like so she says again, Barbara's eyes scanned the crowd in front of her. People of all shades were walking arm in arm, looking seriously at the floor as they walked, deep in thought. But who are they? All of these people. D'Angelo was silent for a moment. Misfits, outsiders, inventors, shapeshifters, geniuses, seers, gifted artisans, people who look different and are different. He paused again, studying the crowd that filled the tiled floor. The world is perhaps larger than you know, yes, more varied, not so predictable as that which you are accustomed. Yeah, I'm beginning to get that impression. There are more types of people, he went on, than fit neatly into the Minnesota multiphasic personality inventory. That's the test that measures personality types, mental illness. Yes, quite right. But here, well, there are people who have special skills, knowledge, instincts, some would say powers, perhaps, and those who have found forgotten skills, or perhaps discovered new ways of enhancing them. So yeah, we literally have a book. I didn't make this up. The Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory tells you what's sane and what isn't. So, like you say, somebody who's outside of those parameters.
Yeah. There needs.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I agree. Man, if you ever get a chance, you should look up a book by Ron Moorhead called Quantum Bigfoot.
Quantum Bigfoot. Okay.
And he talks about the frequencies that they're just at a different frequency. They're here, they're around us. We just don't know it. And he really gives a pretty plausible argument for it. So, I mean, it's not peer reviewed.
Well, and that, and the lady that we spoke to on here, who I believe she was from Australia, and the Bigfoots were called something different in Australia. I don't remember. Yeah. Her theories on all that as well, I thought were they definitely made you think it was something different than I think what the average person, when an average person would think of Bigfoot, is it was something completely different. And it was very, listening to her talk about it was very like, well, all right. Yeah, hadn't thought about that before.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like the little dwarves that live in the trees in Ghana. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't see them. That doesn't mean they're not there. And I had a guy who was a Catholic. Yep. He said, I've heard him. I said, I've heard him on the roof. He said, hey, okay. I don't know. I mean, there was a book written by a woman, a Canadian woman, who it was called Graveyard for Dreamers, about her trip through Africa. And she gets in a conflict with a shaman, and she's in a session with him, and it's around his treatment of her as a woman, and she becomes very angry and defensive, and she starts to get up, and he says quietly, "Don't leave." That's all he says. Don't leave. And she talks about how, she wasn't buying any of this, didn't make sense, it wasn't rational, it was all hocus pocus. But she said when he said, don't leave. I knew I was somewhere else. I didn't know where it was, but I knew I was somewhere else. And she didn't leave. You know, she sat back down. So I just think there's a lot going on out there we don't know about. I mean, I try to maintain a healthy skepticism, but at the same time, I'm also open to new ways of seeing too.
Well, and Glenn Don's story that he told us there at the beginning reminded me a lot of what you had happen.
Yes. Yes.
Is that right?
So Don, I was a paramedic in a previous life. And I lost my entire career in a course of 3 seconds. We were responding on a call, and I mean, I can see it like today. And my sergeant ran in front of me. We're going to our crew that was a first response crew. I was on the fire engine, was getting into a fight with a patient. But the patient, I don't want you to think bad about the patient. He was MR. He had special needs.
You need to specify what those things mean.
Mentally challenged. And he had seizures. And when you come out of a seizure, you're not necessarily with it because your brain's been deprived of oxygen. And
I can speak from that. You either, when you're coming out of it, you are either not yet conscious or you are very confused.
Sure. And add a bunch of people around you that you don't know.
It's very overstimulating. It's very overstimulating.
And so he was fighting with the crew and they needed help. And then he would go back into a seizure when they get him under control. So he was having a medical emergency, but they were still fighting with him. And so I heard them call out the Mayday is what it was called. And so I told my sergeant, I said, that's right around the corner. That's in our area. We got to go. And he didn't hear it on the radio, but he said, let's go. We jumped on the fire engine. And of course, by that time, dispatch said, hey, engine 42, you need to be en route to help your crew out. We got PD going. And my sergeant jumped off. They were on the front porch fighting. And when I said was fighting, they were really trying to restrain him for his own safety. They weren't trying to punch him or anything like that. And he ran past me, and I thought to my head, and I thought, well, you don't run on calls. It's like one of the first things that's trained in us as first responders. And when I opened the door of the engine, I looked down, and I'm like, oh, shit, the driver put me in a ditch. So if I wanted to jump down and take off, I'm old. I got to use the thing and get off the fire truck, get my walker. And so my sergeant was past me up on the front porch. Chaos. There's 3 of them fighting with the guy. The guy's adults' parents are out there trying to help. And there's all these little yipping chihuahuas. There's like 6 of them. And so I'm about halfway down the driveway, and this voice in my head clears the bell. I don't know if it was a man or a woman. I don't know that it was someone I knew. I didn't know. I didn't feel strange. Told me, don't get bit. And in my head, I look up here in my eyes, because you're talking about what you see, and I saw these little 6 chihuahuas, and I thought, I could boot them with my steel toe boot. I'm not worried about them. I've fought off bigger dogs. And I took like 3 more steps, and this voice in my head screams, don't get bit. And now I'm arguing with myself. I'm like, what? And I'm looking at the dog's brain clear about that.
I'm not going to get bit. They're right there. It's fine.
About that time, a pit bull had broken out of the house, come around the parked cars, and was between me and my driver. My driver never saw him. And the first bite, no pain, never felt it. Second bite, I felt kind of a pulling. It was like the 3rd or 4th bite when she started pulling me to the ground that I realized I was in trouble. And there was people all around me, but there was no one around me to see this. And so I'm going through, what the hell do you do when you get attacked by a dog?
Jesus.
Yeah. And so it's a long story short. I finally, a voice in my head, it was my uncle. He was a veterinarian. He had told me as a child when I go on farm calls with him, if something happens, you kick them in the chest to reset their electrical system in their brain, which is a paramedic. I know is a real thing. And they should go away. If not, it'll give you a minute to pause and, figure out. And police had just trained us to take our tool, our pocket knives, out of our dominant hand side pockets, because we would be using them to push off and put them in your non-dominant. She grabbed me on my left side, so I couldn't get to my tool. So in the middle of all this, I'm thinking, I'm poking her in the eye. I'm like, no, that works on sharks. And I mean, literally, this is all going through my mind in slow motion. Finally, I heard my uncle, kick him in the chest. I'm like, hey, that's a good idea. I might want to do that before I go to the ground and it gets worse. And finally, I got her off of me. My fingers were hanging. There was blood coming out of my glove. And I was like, this sucks. And so, I wasn't in a lot of pain. And as I was walking, the next thing the voice said, now at this point, I'm arguing with this voice because I'm pissed off. I'm like, you should have said, look behind you, dumbass. It said, don't worry, it'll all be okay. Well, thanks.
Yeah, you tell me that now.
Like, you could have said, look up behind you, dumbass. But no, you said, don't get bit. There's dogs up there. So I'm now arguing in my head. And it told me that it was only going to hurt for a little while. Well, I was too mad for pain at this point to kick in. So I walk up the porch and I'm breaking open. We're trying to get drugs out of the drug box. And I remember they're like, you need to get this drug and this. I'm like, yeah, well, about that. Somebody's going to have to help. And they're like, why? I'm like, and I held up my fingers. And that was the first time I realized we wore purple gloves. The latex had been ripped off. 3 of the fingers, these 2 fingers were dangling. This one was just kind of, I don't know what it was doing. And I had a hole through my hand. I remember going to them like, yeah, somebody else is going to have to handle this one. And everybody around me just stopped. You're like, what the hell happened to you? You were just right there. And I'm like, I got bit by a pit bull. And the owner's like, she didn't get out.
Somebody might want to go check on her. I kicked her in the chest.
She's so pneumothorax. Yeah. About that time, the owner's like, you didn't get bit, did you? Hey, here's your sign, Sherlock. So yeah. So that was the call that ended my career after 30 some years of taking up my damn dog. But I did hear that voice in my head. Don't know who it was. Don't know what it was. And like I said, reality stopped. And I was arguing with this person in my head, trying to figure out what the hell to do to get a dog off my hand. And, I was somewhere else for those few seconds. And literally there couldn't have been 20 feet between me and the front porch and 20 feet between me and my driver. And no one saw it. Not a soul.
But something in your subconscious or something did. And knew it was coming and warned you.
And I was a little slow, obviously.
If you look up this third,
and then was trying to comfort you after.
Well, I was thinking, hey man, what do you want? I warned you. You didn't listen.
Yeah. Why do you gotta be sarcastic, dude? Couldn't you be the good one?
But if you look at that third minute, they talk about that it often occurs when people are, I wasn't near death, but it's close enough where people are sort of saying, or these voices are telling you what to do and what not to do. And mine wasn't exactly like that, but well, you've had that experience,
It's real.
You
it's one of
can't
the reasons
deny
I
it.
started this show.
You can't explain it. It just is. It just is.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I started this show. Well, that and the wife telling me to get a life. But I mean, because I was like, I've always had a thing for the paranormal, Bigfoot. But what was that? Was it an elder? Was it an angel? Was it what the hell? And why the hell was I so stupid that I didn't listen?
Well, people have said that you have a little buddy with you too, so could be your little guardian angel.
Could be. I don't know. But yeah, so that's one of the reasons, as you were telling us, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of why I started this show, is to figure out, what it was. And it was right. Everything was going to be okay.
I thankfully have not had something like that, but I like to think that I think it has something to do with my neurological condition. Like I feel very honed into things like that.
May well be.
Especially
says don't get bit.
Especially.
Yeah, I mean,
especially around the time that I have those episodes, like it is very difficult to describe to people what happens as I'm going into one of my episodes.
Is it related
But
to epilepsy?
they have changed.
Is it?
So I have a tumor.
Oh boy.
So technically, yes, it is epilepsy. It's a benign tumor. I've had it since I was a kid, so that's all good. But I always thought what was super weird was that at different phases in my life, the episode itself stays the same, but aspects of what happened during it change.
Interesting.
Because as I'm going into, like, as one of my episodes is getting ready to start, I will start recalling memories or things that I've heard that I don't regularly remember. And it gives me like a weird feeling when it happens.
Yeah.
And then I remember specifically back in high school, because the best way that I can describe, like, whenever you're looking at me, you can't tell something's happening. But on my side, like right here in the corner of my eye, it's like somebody's got a strobe light. Well, while I was in high school, it was super weird because I had started a different aspect of these episodes that, like, my head would start turning. And it was because I was seeing a figure out of the corner of my eye, and I would be turning. My head would just keep turning because I'm like, well, where are they going? So I know it's going to be a particularly bad episode if I start trying to, like, look at something and I'll be like trying to jerk my head back. But it's super weird, some of the stuff that happens while I'm going into the episode, because I'll start like, I can tell you that I remember things that I don't normally remember, but I can't tell you what until, like, I would be having one. And it's super weird.
Sounds like you're switching channels.
Exactly. Changing.
Kind of. Yeah. That's it's almost like you're I'm like momentarily turning a frequency, or like doing like a full reset is what I like to call it.
One of my friends has seizures, and he says that he can tell when they're coming by. He starts getting deja vu, and he can feel that deja vu.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like where I said, like, memories are coming back to me that I don't remember on like a normal basis. It's almost kind of like that deja vu. And I have since I was younger, have some freaking crazy deja vu.
Well, I mean, it's there's a lot of stuff that we just, we can't explain. I mean, you see a diagram of the brain and there's billions of cells. Those are all running on electrical impulses, right? And I mean, electrical impulses, you can broadcast those, and you can turn them into waves. You can do all kinds of weird things with them. And we just don't know. I think that it's the last great frontier, is understanding the way our brains work. In my book, Barbara is an empath, and it wasn't anything that she developed, but she could sense what people were feeling and sense their actual thoughts. And I think there are people who are much more sensitive to that. This friend of mine and I were talking about the shaman. Was he really plugged into or was he just extremely, exquisitely sensitive to empathetic, if you were? Could he detect in our facial expressions and things like that, things that we could identify? I don't know. Oh,
and a question I was going to ask about you talking about, you had said that they, one of them had given you like a fortune.
Yeah.
And your friend one as well. Was it accurate?
Well, mine was, I must say, actually, when I wrote an article on it, I said mine was a bit like a fortune cookie.
One of those.
I mean, it was nice. He said, you have a strong river. I remember this. He said, you have a strong river running through you. Strong river. I've written it down someplace, and no one is blocking your way. And he talked to Wayne. He said, but somebody is blocking your career. But he said, don't worry, they're not using juju. So juju is, of course, black magic. Right? So so there's something I don't know what. But
I guess that was very much like a fortune cookie fortune. Take it as you will.
Listen, I felt good, but hey, man, I felt good. I have a strong river and a strong, and rivers up there, of course, represent strength and life, and but his was more a little darker. But like I say, he was assuring that it wasn't juju, so it wasn't black magic. So,
have you ever seen a ghost?
A ghost?
Mm-hmm.
Or a spirit, or a cryptid of sorts?
Something unexplainable? Okay, well, no, fair. You might now.
Oh, okay, it's something unexplainable.
Yeah, but, different people have different experiences.
Yeah. Well, we've kept you over the time that
I enjoyed it.
Well, we have too, and I want to make sure everybody knows where to find your stuff. Obviously, Shiny has already got
Amazon.
Somebody said, or the electronic books, or the online bookseller of your choice. That's kind of what it amounts to.
Yes, it is on Kindle Unlimited as well.
Oh, thank you. And
do you have a website?
I also have, like I say, 12 or 14 other books, and they're available also through Amazon, or you can go on my webpage, which is simply donsawyer.org. And I'd be happy to send you whatever you like. As I say, I've written books all the way from elementary age chapter books up through nonfiction adult accounts of our first teaching in Newfoundland, in rural Newfoundland. So I've covered some terrain over my life. But as I say, it's a good thing I'm a teacher that writes rather than a writer that teaches, because I was able to make a living teaching. We would all die if I tried to make a living writing.
When I was researching you, I was like, wait a minute, I must have the wrong guy here. This is children's books.
Well, I got them all.
Yeah, no, I figured it out, but yeah, I was like,
I got two young adult fiction books that I'm really proud of. I really like. One of them is a Canadian bestseller. For the Rivers Meet, sold over 20,000 copies, and that's used mainly in native classrooms and for young people, and that's really gratifying. Really gratifying. And when you get letters from, I have one letter from a student that said, "This is the first book I ever started reading and actually finished." I said, "Wow, man, you can't answer more than that."
Check that off the.
Well, back in the olden days, we used to write letters and send, because I wrote a letter to an author, and I got a letter. I got a response back.
I used to do that as well. In the back of teen magazines, there used to be addresses for your favorite celebrities that you could write to, and I may have written several.
Well, I was told by the author that he was very touched, and I mean, I still got a copy of the letter. He's passed since then, and he was very touched, because this was before the day where people really reached out. Now you can, I could Google Don Sawyer, find you, get an email address, and shoot you a message. But back in those days, you had to, like you said, either a magazine or somewhere, and then hope that the person actually got it, and then hope that they actually read it. And so
they cared enough to read it and cared so much enough to respond.
Yeah. And he told me, he said, it does mean a lot to me, because, it was, of course, I was probably in my teens at the time. So yeah. Dennis Smith was the author. He wrote Report from Engine Company 82, a story about his career in the FDNY. And back in those days, it was really wild. Well, I guess it's still wild, but it's just how you look at it. And so that was one of the things that inspired me as a firefighter paramedic, so, and I wrote him even back then. And so it is nice to reach out and be able to correspond with,
I really like getting, sometimes like some of my books are used as classroom sets, and I have some teacher's guides that go with them. And one of my suggestions is to get your students to write me. Here's my address. And sometimes I'll get a big envelope full of letters, and it's really fun. And I write everyone back. If they take the time to write me, that's the least I can do back.
I need to figure out how to do that for my favorite author, because I would love to actively write her. And she is actually from here in West Virginia. And her book was used as my freshman year. I was in like a leveled up English class, and that was the first story that we read that year. And I will play that on repeat on audiobook of her story of like how crazy her family life was. I highly suggest it. It's by Jeanette Walls. It's called The Glass Castle. Fabulous book. And I will play that going to bed at night. She reads it herself on Audible, and it is a fabulous book. And I would love to write her and tell her I have read and listened to that so many times.
I know it would mean a lot to her. I mean, like I say, it's always gratifying. I mean, as a writer, it's a pretty lonely business. You sit at your computer and whack away and wonder if anybody's ever going to read it. And so when actually someone writes and read it, it's kind of wow. And so in particular, when people take the time to reach out to you, I think for the most part, I mean, obviously there's exceptions, but I've met a lot of writers, most of whom are, quite modest and caring and compassionate people, and some are real arrogant assholes. And so you win some.
We know
you're gonna run into those.
Anyway,
we've come across a few.
I'm sure.
Mostly in the comic industry. If we're talking about novels, we're usually good. Comic industry is when we get to the assholes.
Comics, COMIC.
Okay. Yeah, we've interviewed multiple comic book authors. And some of them are really great, and others are wow.
Some of them will forever be on my shit list.
Yeah, I got a few I could add, but anyway, we won't do that now.
Well, and I was going to ask you this while you were reading the book. Have you considered doing the Audible book? Because I can tell by your reading it, you put the passion.
You would be fabulous reading it.
I would just say that to all the readers.
Okay, well, so here's the thing. I am very, very picky about who reads. Like whenever I'm picking a book to read on Audible, I'm extremely picky on who reads it. They've got to have like the flow to them. Like I love hearing that Jeanette reads her own book, and I think it's even better when you're getting that the author is reading their own book, but not even just that. The little bit that you read to us, it would be phenomenal listening to you read the whole thing.
Oh, it's very kind of you. I'll look into that. Yeah. I've also got to finish.
And you will have to let us know the update on that when you come back.
Okay, I promise I will.
Yes, you have to come back, especially when you finish.
I hold you to that.
Okay. Yeah. If I live long enough to get the third one out, I'll definitely.
Okay. You're required to do that as well.
Okay.
I think you will. I'll get on Mickey and tell him to start throwing keyboards at you or something. But
that's right. Yeah.
But no, we really have enjoyed this, and I do mean that.
Yes, very much.
Come back.
I have to. It's fun. It really has. Thank you guys so much. And it's different, a lot of times it's sort of the same questions. Things are a little different.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That's I don't like stuffiness. So, if you can tell,
we're just you are getting the normal us on a day-to-day basis. Who we are when we come on here is who you're going to get out on the street.
I had one author that Shia knew I was dying. She knew I was dying, and I would be like, "So, what's your favorite color?" It's because I totally lost control of everything, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, you're on the list." But what's your favorite color? So we try not.
You'll have to remind me of you'll have to remind me of who that one is, unless we are talking about the same.
No, this was a female. Maybe you weren't on because I was literally crying. I was like, my allergies are killing. It might have been Amanda was with me that night.
Oh, was that the meow one?
Yes, that was the meow. Yeah,
I was not. I was not there for that one.
Yeah, one time I got to just make it a game, asking stupid questions, going, "Are we done yet?" And I gotta.
Okay, we've been here 15 minutes. All right, we got 45 to go.
So, yeah, I got a meow in. It was a horrible. One of my worst. But one of the ones I look back fondly and laugh at. So, I'm sure she was a great person. She just didn't have a personality for.
Well, and that's true. Just because you can write doesn't mean you can, carry on a conversation.
Exactly. So, Don, have a great night. I know you emailed me and said you're in the same time zone, so it's not too late. But
well, I mean, you got to.
Thank you so very much.
I mean, I go to bed.
He is up very late. This is past his bedtime.
Well past.
Another author says, he says, I can't be on so late. I got to go to bed.
I've never had an interview at 10 o'clock before.
We're just not your normal.
Well, you can check that off the list.
Sending us people because
off the list. I'll do that too.
Yeah, I think that's why Mickey keeps sending us people is because he's like, there's just something wrong with these people. I gotta break them eventually. But no, we do enjoy.
I have to put younger people on. That's all.
Yeah,
so
we take that.
No one over 35 can be on
anyway. I couldn't.
Well, then I shouldn't be here.
Yeah, she's a 12, so compared to me. So, but yeah, I couldn't do that.
All right, Grandpa.
Oh, shut up. I gotta go get my own shit. It's time. So. Don, thank you a lot. I appreciate your time. It was wonderful chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
You too.
Bye. Shay. I didn't see Glenn on it.
Well, somebody's going to push all these other buttons, so
okay.
Trust me.
I was quickly entering in my payment info.
Love it.
Yeah. All right, Don. Have a great night. We will talk to you soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi.
That was sorry, I pushed a button too soon. Sorry. That was a great show. Both of our guests were
both were great, yeah.
And incredibly talented. And I like the fact that Don does like an autobiography on his characters, I guess is the right word. And he puts that depth, and you could tell when he read it, the depth was there. It wasn't like, Don does this. It wasn't shallow.
Well, and I think he's got kind of the same mindset about his characters like I do. Like, I can't just go in with like here is my stick figure of a character. Like, no, I've got to sit down and write out like so-and-so's favorite color is purple because this happened in her childhood. Therefore, like, I've got to like flesh a character out and like be intertwined with it, of basically doing that before I can carry on.
With all these authors we've interviewed with you, Cheyenne, I'm surprised you haven't gotten your book done by now. I really am.
You know how many books I have going on?
Well, I got 2 or 3 in my head too, but I mean,
I've got literally, there are probably like 6 on the computer and then 12 more scattered in all of my other writing stuff. And I literally just started another one the other day on my phone.
Oh, wow.
Because I had an idea.
Wow. So
I get these ads all the time on Facebook for like, the different smut stuff that's out there. And I was like, well, I haven't heard an idea on this yet and I hate those stories that are the thing that's all the rage anymore is like the werewolf stories.
Yes.
And I think those are stupid, but there have been 2 that I have been able to stomach reading. And one of them, it's more heavily in but the smutty part of it is really good. So I can get past it with that. And then the other one is just the fact that they are werewolves is just kind of just tossed in there a little bit. It's not the main part of the story. And I had read, because a lot of the times in those little ads that they give you, it'll give you like pretty much the first chapter for you to scroll through and read there. And I liked the overall idea, but I was like, you know what? In all of these stories that I have come across, and maybe I just haven't found the idea that I have not found it out there, but I was like, it's always big alpha male werewolf finds his little Luna that like nobody cares about. And I was like, no, I want a strong female pack where the alpha is a woman and she like comes in and brings this alpha male in another pack to his knees because she is a bad bitch. So I started working on that.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I just looked over and realized we're still connected to Dare Radio in Australia, and I'm not sure if we've went over our time, but it's their lunchtime, so hopefully they're enjoying this. Well, first off, are you going to be able to come back next week? Or do you know?
Not next week, because I'll be
moving
shit.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get you in the week after. In fact, let me look and see who we do have next week, because I know we've gotten a couple more authors coming in next week. And am I reading that right? July 30th? I don't have anybody? No, that can't be right. I got to have somebody. So I'll fix that and see. But yeah, we'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow on Eastern time, 1 o'clock, 1300 till 3 o'clock, doing the Sportcat Daily Gazette. It'll be on Radio X and Dare Radio in Australia. And of course, all the Jurg's channel, and then right here on YouTube. So come check it out. So I'll have that. That'll be in the overnight hours in Australia. So I'm kind of the morning wake up call. They're shock jock. So so yes, I'll be on doing that. And then we have the show on CBS Big Brother coming up tomorrow night and Friday night. So we have 2 episodes this week. Well, and then Sunday. So, and that will also be on Dare Radio and Radio X in Australia. Well, I don't think it's on Radio X. It'll be on Dare Radio. So we have that coming up as well. And if anybody wants to find out the schedule or stuff, just find me on Facebook, Sportcat, and I post all the times and stuff. So now I'm not good with time zone conversion, so I can't help you there. But I'm lucky to know
Google that yourselves.
No, I got a app that's time now. So that's why I just looked to see in the course of Australia what times it was. But yeah, we've run way over, so I got to cut out of here. But Cheyenne, I'm glad you were here tonight, or this morning and afternoon for everybody in Australia. We had a great show, 2 great guests.
Happy to be here.
And if you missed any of it, you can still come over and find it on the Para OR Normal Guyz with a Z, Guyz, Para OR Normal, 3 words, or just search out the Sportcat shows. And of course, this should be tomorrow.
And just in case, because of how you pronounce it, it is Para OR Normal, not Para OR.
That's
Para OR Normal Guyz.
Yeah, well, I can understand too in Australia where they might not understand my southernism. So, yeah, but yeah, you can find that, and this will also be rolled over into what is it, Apple, whatever their iPod thing, and Spotify and
iTunes.
iTunes, yeah, that's it. It'll be on iHeart and iTunes and Spotify and Amazon and
all the places.
Yeah, I'm all over. So
Twitch, all the places.
Yeah, that's it. You got anything coming up, Cheyenne?
Well, when I am not here, you can catch me over on Spotify for Bracket Bastards. I have them coming up this week. You can check out last week's that we did last week that should just be coming out, which is the best Jesses, which was a very fun episode. And then our next one coming up is on, I thought it was just Shark Week, like movies, but we are doing like shark and water creature features. So that'll be coming up.
Okay, cool. We'll go check that out. Bracket Bastards on the Spotify, or is it on iTunes?
Spotify.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if it is on the iTunes, but it is for sure on the Spotify.
Okay. There you go. Go find her over there. And then I will find out and let everybody know what we have coming up next week. And I'll try and announce that tomorrow in case anybody's listening. So, all right. We are out of here. Thank you to Dare Media, Radio X Australia, Yerg's Radio. He's got 10 channels. So thank you, Yerg's. We appreciate that. Everybody over there, come over and find us on YouTube and hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. It would help us out.
Like, follow, share, subscribe.
Yeah, we're almost monetized, so we could use your help. Please come over and subscribe. Everybody have a great night or a great afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're in. And we will see you next week on the Para OR Normal Guyz.
Bye.